welcome to our bonus podcast. I have a special duo for this one. As usually, we have our experienced co-host from Izmir, Errick McCollum, but this time, for the first time, he's joined by his teammate, Mindaugas Kuzminskas. So, hello guys, great to have you here.
It's good to be here.
Hello.
Yeah, and there's a special occasion why we have these two guys on the pods. This is a EuroLeague playoffs time, and we'll share our predictions on this pods, and also we will discuss a couple of other topics. But just before we start our formalities, since you're the teammates, I'm expecting great insights and playful trash talk from you. So if one gets too polite and diplomatic, I just want the other to jump in and say, "Hey, this is not what you said in the locker room." So let's keep it real, funny, with trash talk and stuff like that. Is that all right? Can we agree on that?
Sounds good.
I'm just curious to know what kind of basketball-related propaganda each of you are usually pushing in the locker room, and which usually irritates you, which you don't agree at all. What's the propaganda of Mindaugas Kuzminskas, and what's the main propaganda, the line of propaganda of Errick McCollum? Because I have a feeling that usually Mindaugas might be playing this old-fashioned Lithuanian music, or it's not something you do in Izmir right now without having Lithuanian teammates.
No, I'm not. No, unfortunately, I'm not, because I would be the only one who is listening to it. So I usually do it at home.
He did pick some Lithuanian music for the warm-up tape. So we had each player got to pick 2 songs. So when you're warming up, an hour, 70, 80 minutes before the game. And so I know he picked 2 songs. I heard one. I just knew it had to be Lithuanian because it was a song I had never heard before, and it wasn't Turkish.
So what are the songs?
It wasn't Lithuanian, but unfortunately they never put it on, in the gym. So it probably looks too bad.
So what are the titles of those 2 songs that you tried to put on the playlist on the warm-up? Because
this question for me?
Yeah, Lithuanian songs.
Yeah, it was old school song. Probably, of course, it was Hyperbole song, So usually we listen those songs in the national team. So I wanted to bring, a piece of home to our gym, but unfortunately it didn't happen,
But I completely see what you're saying, because I remember once I was traveling in Spain. I think it was something between a double round week in Spain, and I kind of randomly ended up in Zaragoza to watch Ronaldo Seibutis play for a Zaragoza team, some Spanish league game. And I'm sitting in the arena, there's the warm-up, and I'm like, hey, where this song is coming from? And I think it was actually the song of Hyperbole or Vairas. I don't remember the title of that song, but it was so random.
Hyperbole. I know Hyperbole.
The same song?
Yes.
Oh my gosh. So it was so random, but so funny at the same time. And I watched Ronaldo Seibutis, and he is like singing that song during the warm-up, and nobody knows what the hell is going on with that song. So that was pretty dope. The first thing I want to bring on actually is very interesting, because this might be the clash of 2 very different approaches. And I don't know if, Errick, you're aware of it, but Thomas Walkup, Olympiacos guard, just recently, I think he already became the Greek citizen, and now he will be eligible to play for the Greek national team in the World Cup. And I just wanted to hear your thoughts, and maybe starting from Mindaugas, because it's more of something that is related to him, because he's also about to play in the World Cup, and it's not the first time that some of the national teams are naturalizing players and kind of have this unexpected upgrade for those teams, although there are some, I would say, more traditional federations and national teams that don't have naturalized players or have very different approach on naturalizing players. So what would be your take, Kuzminskas? What was your reaction?
Well, probably it's not a secret. I'm against those things. And because what is the difference between the clubs and national teams? If we can take some guys who are not born and raised in that country. And also, there are 2 different scenarios. One of them, when the player is playing a lot of time in the same country, Maybe he's already culture-wise, adapted to the country. Maybe he speaks that language. Then it's a different story. Then he really wants, to be the citizen of that country. And another story is when you just get the passport to avoid foreigner limits, or just to get your passport to be able to play in more teams for maybe bigger money, and then you just play a couple summers for that team. So I don't like those type of things, and I really like that Lithuania is not going that way. Even there are a lot of opinions that maybe we need to add one player, another player, or even coach. I'm happy that we, small country, we are holding our principles, and we're playing with only the guys who born and raised in that country, basically.
Yeah, for instance, Spain just naturalized Lorenzo Brown last year, who basically became the MVP of the tournament and was super important for their championship run. France, right now they want to naturalize Joel Embiid. Slovenia got Mike Tobey and Anthony Randolph before. Greece now probably brings Thomas Walkup. Turkey, they also had Scottie Wilbekin before, and then later Shane Larkin. Poland,
Bobby Dixon before too.
Exactly. So even we're talking about the powerhouses of national team basketball. They're bringing these players, and there are just few countries that still remain with this more of like nationalist idea. I think it's basically Lithuania, Serbia. And other than that, I might be missing some of these traditional basketball powerhouses, but basically the list is very short. And I mean, I have nothing against Thomas Walkup. I love him a lot as a player, as a person. And it's not his and probably not even Greek Basketball Federation fault. I just think that there's this loophole in FIBA system that allows things like that. Some of these national teams use this one naturalized player rule to bring somebody who has ties with the country, but maybe had a different passport before, maybe played for some different youth teams, like we have Ignas Brazdeikis, who played for the Canada youth team. And it allows, to bring those who have ties with the national team to play for the country. But at the same time, many national teams use this rule for different reasons. I just think that we're losing the sense of the national team basketball, because I always thought that it's all about representing the talent that you produce as a basketball country. And now we are getting in a situation where it's kind of a mix of local talent and then some upgrades in the free agency. But this is where I wanted to hear Errick's opinion a lot, because usually American players are naturalized, but it is at the same time, what is interesting also right now, that Team USA is also thinking about, bringing Joel Embiid on the national team, although he's from Cameroon, but recently he got the USA passport, so he might be eligible to play for the national team as well. So I just wanted to listen what you think about the situation.
So for me, I think I understand where the locals are coming from. You have that nationalism, that sense of pride, and you want, guys who, embrace the country and the culture. So for me, I think it's not so important that they're from that country, but I think it's important that they identify with the culture, the community. And I think the best way for that is probably to play there. So, I think it's a good opportunity. I like the blending of basketball. I like that sometimes, you bring in a different type of style and those type of things. And, coaches and, leagues have pressure to perform well, to do well, in the national team. And, for instance, like Spain, I think, they didn't have that youth development as far as, what players are emerging. They don't have enough. They have a very good, older players, the older generation, when you're talking about from 37 to 31-ish. But I think that younger era basketball is lacking, and that's why you see a Lorenzo signing. So I think it would probably be better, for both parties if the foreigner played in that country. You understand what it's like to live there. You understand, the culture, the food. Maybe you don't know the language, but you have a greater sense, of that country and what it means to play for that country. At least for me, playing in the place multiple years, I can feel like Turkey is home. I can feel that energy. I understand certain things. Some things I don't even know the language, but I understand exactly, what my teammate might feel there or that. And I think fans can relate to that, and they'll draw to those players more. So, kind of like what you guys said, I think just to give somebody a passport who's never played in the country is a bit too much. But if they've played there, and I don't know if you want to make it 1 year, 2 year, 3 years, it's a little bit better. As far as Thomas Walkup, I'm not sure how he helps them when they already have Tyler Dorsey. Me and Kuz talked about this. They're a team that is based around Giannis. You have a generational talent, somebody who's special. And then you throw in, sometimes you might play Papa Giannis as well. So it's a lot of size. To me, they need a shooter or a pure scorer. I think Walkup fits the Greek style. He's tough. He's an elite defender. He's physical, but he lacks a lot of tools offensively. And he doesn't create more spacing for Giannis. So, I think Tyler Dorsey's a better fit. And I think him getting the pass, but I don't think that will change, just because if I'm into this, there's no way I take a guy over someone who I just signed to a 3-year contract on my team. Like, what type of confidence does that put if I take Walkup over Dorsey? So it's just my mindset on that. But, you'll see it in countries like Serbia. You mentioned that they don't do it, but they did give Charles Jenkins a nationalization. He was going to play until Teodosic put his foot down and said, if he plays, I'm not playing. But if he didn't do that, he would have been on that team, because he understood some of the language. He played in Serbia for like 4 years. I felt like he would have been the perfect guy. Like, I seen him interact with his teammates, how he defends, the Serbian mentality, and that was when he was a big time offensive player. I thought he would have been perfect there, but this is how it goes sometimes.
Yeah, I agree. I agree with Errick that I think Dorsey is better fit for Greek national team. Even Walkup is an amazing player for most of the teams, and he will help most of the teams, but I think they need a shooter, like you said. But sometimes I think some of the teams are doing that not because of the national team, but because of local championships. Like we can see in Turkey, we have 5 foreigner limit. And for example, Fenerbahce, when they have Wilbekin, or Efes when they have Larkin, it makes a big difference because you have one more foreigner, So maybe, I don't know, it's just my guess, maybe it's also related with that in Greek championship. I don't know.
Yeah, there was some speculation. It might be related to Sasha Vezenkov, possibly departing to Sacramento. Maybe it might be related to Kostas Lukos potentially going to another team. In one case or another, it gives them flexibility in the domestic league, although I'm not sure if they really have a competition, or maybe they're just expecting Panathinaikos to build up for the future and invest more and be more competitive over there. But yeah, Walkup's case is a little bit different from Lorenzo Brown's, because at least he has played there for 2 or 3 years already. He wants to stay there. He resigned the contract for 4 more years, and at least that's what Thomas said, that he wants to, to be a resident of Greece. He loves the country. He wants to stay there. So maybe that makes the difference. But again, I mean, it's weird for us because maybe we got used to the players' naturalization when not the powerhouses of FIBA basketball were naturalizing players. But now watching Spain, now there's Greece. And by the way, there's one thing about Greece. I think that, if I'm correct, Tyler Dorsey is not naturalized player due to his mother's Greek background. He's treated as, and his status is as any other Greek national team player. So I think that Itoudis will be able to have both of them on the national team.
With Kalathis and Seleucus. It's a lot of point guards, but
yeah. So anyway, that's gonna be an open topic in Europe for many years. I don't know, maybe this is the problem of our approach with Mindaugas. Maybe the world is just getting more globalized, and it's normal to have this mix of cultures, mix of different approaches, and it's not like it was before, and maybe it's not bad at all, but for us, for these old men, it's still hard to adjust, especially in a country which didn't have any naturalized player before. Okay, the second topic before we go to the playoff matchups is, I would put it this way. Let's say your coach, you have a head coach who, not including any names, let's say there is some coach X. That coach is a coach of a back-to-back champions team, which makes them make the playoffs in the EuroLeague. And then that coach starts publicly flirting with the other particular EuroLeague team and says that there are offers from many more EuroLeague teams. And although he's still on an important task in the domestic league to win the championship, he makes it so publicly and with no hesitation. I was just wondering, how do you feel as a player if that coach is a coach of your team? What impact it has on your team?
Errick played for that coach X, so he can respond.
Yeah, for me, I have a problem with it. I think players and coaches need to be held at the same standard because we represent the organization, we represent the fan base, and there's a certain level of professionalism. I'm not saying you can't or can sign a contract, whatever. That's the case. If he signed, if he didn't sign, that's for you to decide. But to speak about another team that you could potentially play for or coach for while in the current season publicly, to me is distracting, one, to your players. And it makes it harder for your players to buy in for you when they're already having issues internally, when they're already having, a up and down season, whether it was from injuries, whether, key players were out at the wrong time, whether guys weren't clicking in, whatever the cases may be. I think when you do that, you create another obstacle for your team. And this is a season when you need as few obstacles as possible, when you're probably the first team in the historic era to win the championship and not go to the playoffs. So me as a player, I'm very respectful, but I'm also very vocal. And I would have a conversation with the coach and I would ask him about that, because as a player, if I was doing interviews about playing for one of these teams, this would be a big problem. Fans would hate me. Team might try to find me. There would be all type of breaches in my contract. They would try to, foresee. And I just think to show that unity and to show the togetherness, that's not a conversation that should be had. That should be a no comment, or that should be, I'm here to talk about FS and what we're going to do in the Turkish Championship. Any questions regarding my future career, we will talk about after we finish our season here.
Well, yeah, I think most of the things which happened in that team during this season, I think they should have stayed inside the team, not on Twitter, not on press conference, and that distraction didn't help us. It helped them. From the other side, maybe some of the coaches in these certain ways trying to make their team react. I don't know, sometimes he's, saying some bad things about his players during press conference. Maybe he's trying to push in this way. Right now, maybe he's trying to show his team that, he's one of the most wanted coaches in Europe, and, that they should respect him more. I don't know. That's my thoughts. But like Errick said, if the player did that, it would be big problem.
Yeah, exactly. That's how I thought about the situation. And Coach X is known for making, messages to his players. And
yeah, that's what I'm saying. I think the titles which he had won during his career, showing a lot of things, and probably some of those things which are not usual for other coaches, they are working. That's his strategy. So might be it's also one of his moves. I don't know.
And there's ways to negotiate. You don't really have to say that to the media, to the public. You could literally have your agent go straight to FS organization and tell him, look, he has an offer from Panathinaikos, this amount of money. If you guys want him, you better move fast. And you could do that kind of internally where it's seamless. Or he could even say, I probably get offers all year like he did. The first time he answered, it was correct. It was probably like a month ago. He said, teams call, this, I'm focused on the season. Yes, Panathinaikos calls, but, I don't discuss next year stuff. Okay, that was better. But to discuss, I might be coach here, you got 1 foot in, 1 foot out. How can I trust you as a player?
Yeah, I also think that it's part of Ataman's game. It's part of him building his public image to make everybody feel that he's one of the most wanted coaches in Europe. But at the same time, I think it's disrespectful to the organization, disrespectful to your colleagues, assistant coaches that are working with you and for you, and to your players. Because the message I'm getting if I'm working with him, if I'm working with him, I already know who is he all about. But at the same time, I'm getting the message that you're not fully focused on the goal that we're all up to. And for some of these players, for some of these coaches, that might be very important for their future careers. And to have your captain, the main man of your team, giving those interviews and being 1 foot on our team and stuff like that. I see more ways how it hurts the team when it motivates the team, or more options to do that. So it's very weird. It's really weird, and it's just what Errick said. It's a bit weird that at first his strategy was different. Now he's acting completely opposite when it was before. So I just don't get it.
I think he will stay in FS anyway, honestly.
Okay.
I mean, it sounds like the better play. I mean, Panathinaikos has went through how many coaches in how many years? They change it like we change underwear. It's a lot of pressure there. They haven't, been a force in the playoffs in a long time. One time they have the same owner. Another time he steps down. Another time he's trying to sell the stakes to the shareholders. Like, if I'm a coach, I like stability. I like knowing what I'm going to have. And then I would like to have double the budget. I mean, at FS, you have double the budget. Why would you want to go for half the budget and less job security? That's just my opinion. Unless he's going to come back, and Panathinaikos is going to be back at the old time. Ataman likes to have his control, when it comes to player process, picking his guys. And I don't know if Panathinaikos is going to do that. So it'll be interesting to see, but he needs strong guard play. And, when you cut the budget 50% going to a different team, it's going to be hard to find, the Misages and the Shane Larkins of the world.
Yeah. I mean, we'll see. I also wouldn't be surprised if that's part of his mind games to get an offer, or to get a better offer from FS, flirting with other teams so publicly. But if he really goes to Panathinaikos, I mean, at least from what I heard, they really, or at least they're, letting everybody know that they might be ready to invest way more than before. And it might be closer to Ataman standards that he had in FS. So I wouldn't be surprised about this, cooperation at all if Ataman decides finally to join Panathinaikos. But yeah, we'll see. That's another interesting thing that we'll probably be discussing for weeks and months in the upcoming future. But let's focus on the EuroLeague playoffs right now. We have 4 intriguing matchups, and we are ready to give our predictions for all of them. And let's start from the 1st and 8 seeds. Olympiacos, Fenerbahce. History and statistics and numbers show that it should be the least competitive playoff series, because I actually forgot that both of these teams played in the preseason as well, and Olympiacos won all 4 games in double digits. And in the EuroLeague regular season, they won both games by huge, large margins. I actually lost the number, but both of these were over 20. Yeah, exactly. Do you see any room for this matchup to be more competitive? Do you see it as a sweep, or it might be way more intriguing when it looking from a side?
And I went back and forth with this one, just because with Fener, it's been a tale of two halves. You've seen a dominant team at the start when they were healthy, when things were rolling. And then you've seen things start to take a turn when they added some players. The chemistry kind of got shook up a little bit. Then some injuries hit them, and you started to see that they were vulnerable. But for the first, 2-3 months of EuroLeague, it looked like, they were just going to dominate the entire year. I think that I'm expecting a gentleman's sweep, and not because I don't think Fener is strong, just because I think it's Olympiacos' time. The way they're playing, their togetherness, how they play as a team, the trust that Mindaugas gives the players. They have that continuity from being together. With Fener, it's a new team. They added a lot of key pieces. I do think they have the advantage at the 5 position. I think Motley's too strong for Baba Boy to guard. I think he's too quick for Mustafa Fall. I think he's going to have his way. I think what can make this series very interesting is if Fener switches all the screens and plays with the tall lineup. If you switch the screens, you take Lucas out of the game with his pick and roll play. He's not really a one-on-one guy. He's really good in the pick and roll, so you can kind of eliminate some of those easy looks. And then you hurt Vizinko on the pick and pop. Now he has to go to the post. He's not really a post-up guy. He has a decent face-up game, but he really kills you in close-out attacks and pick-and-pop situations. And Fener has the size to switch everything. And Nigel Hayes is an excellent defender, probably the best overall around defender in the league when it comes to guarding 1 through 5 position. So I think they can make it very interesting. I like to see Wilbekin back, but I also don't know how that affects the team, because now you have to take minutes from Dorsey, then you have to take a little bit from Kalathis, then that puts Carson Edwards back on the bench, and then it also takes a little bit from Guduric. So, if they can find a way to implement him in there, it could be special. And I wanted to say, it goes 5, Olympiacos, but I couldn't, just because of how dominant they were in the regular season, but also where Fener is at now, domestically and also in the EuroLeague. And that stretch is hard to just turn on the switch. So 3-1, I think it will be some good games. But if they switch everything from the beginning, I wouldn't be surprised if it goes 5. But they must switch. They cannot play pick and roll defense against them because it could be bad.
Well, I have the same score. I think Olympiacos is going to win 3-1. If you put two teams, just name by name, head to head, I think that Fener has even better roster. Mm-hmm. But their problem is that, like Errick said, I think they have too many players, which is a lot of times is not comfortable. Those guys, they used to be leaders of their team, playing more than 30 minutes, and right now they need to share the minutes to accept the roles. And Olympiacos is strong by that. Everybody knows their role. Everybody knows that, Zenkov probably going to take the most important shots. Luka's going to play pick and roll. Even Alex Peter is going to come to the court, make a couple shots, take a couple rebounds. Everybody knows what they're going to do. In Fener, nobody knows. And like Errick said, when Wilbekin will come back, it's going to be even tougher for them. And that's it. And yeah, I was thinking when I saw that Fener going to play Olympiacos, I was thinking that it's way better fit for them than Barcelona or Madrid. But then I checked the scores, and yeah, one game they lost by 20, another game they lost by 27, which is impressive. But at the same time, maybe it's really hard to beat the same team 7 times in a row. So that's why I think that Fener gonna win at least one time, maybe 2 times.
Yeah, I mean, for me, it's even hard to think about that such a talented team and roster that Fenerbahce has can be swept by Olympiacos, because as Kuz, you mentioned, I mean, looking head to head, and as Errick mentioned, with their defensive potential, it feels like they can really be a tough matchup for Olympiacos. But the way how Olympiacos made it with this team, it goes above the roster, it goes above the talent, but there's this continuity, this sense of knowing their roles and just playing a dominant basketball, not necessarily with the most dominant players, but somehow putting everything up to make it as a dominant ball game. So it's going to be very tough for Fenerbahce. It depends on who they're going to have on the lineup, actually. They have injury problems, and it's not just including those names that are mentioned on media and in this pod, like Wilbekin and Nemanja Bjelica. It's not going to be easy. And actually, looking at some stats, I was also surprised, and probably that should be the focus of Fenerbahce, how they should start the game, with what kind of approach they should start the game. That in both games in the regular season, if we would look only at the halftime score, Fenerbahce was outscored by 48 points in 2 games. That's just ridiculous. I mean, in Piraeus, Olympiacos was up by 27 after 2 quarters. In Istanbul, they were up by 21. I mean, that's ridiculous. Fenerbahce should be ready from the beginning. They should be physical as possible. Maybe it involves switching everybody, as Errick mentioned. I think that they have a right personnel to do that, with Nigel Hayes-Davis, with Deshaun Pierre, with these tall, tough, physical lineups. Exactly. So I really want to believe that at least in Istanbul, they will take that one win. So it's strange to see, Fenerbahce with so much talent on the team being in this position, but yeah, it's also a lot of.
But also, like Barzoka said, the basketball gods might help Olympiacos, because they could lose the last game and avoid Fenerbahce in the first round. I think, if I'm not wrong, any of other teams would be better for them, but they won. I think they made right thing, because you cannot do those things in EuroLeague in high level basketball, So that's just one thing which I wanted to mention.
That's an NBA move.
Yeah.
Yeah, one interesting fact to add up what I said, that Olympiacos is actually the best team in first 3 quarters, and because their average margin that they built throughout the first 30 minutes is 8.5 points, which is huge compared to the second or third best, which is Barca and Real Madrid, close to 5 points. So the importance of being ready for the beginning of the game is huge, because there's another interesting stat which was published by 3 Steps Basket recently, that Olympiacos is actually the second worst team in the crunch time, basically, if the difference is not bigger than 5 points in the last 5 minutes of the game, if I'm correct. Olympiacos has the second worst net rating, so it shows just how important for Fenerbahce and for everybody else to keep up with them for the first 3 quarters, not to let them to get away with a huge lead, and then in the end a lot of things can happen. So we'll see. Let's hope that it will be intriguing matchup, and we will witness some great playoff battle as we did last year between Olympiacos and Monaco. So if I heard it correctly, we all say that Olympiacos in 4, right?
Mm-hmm. Yes.
Okay, let's head to the second matchup. Partizan, Real Madrid. What are your thoughts about this matchup?
I think this is a tough one for Partizan. Just the Tavares effect. He kind of mucks your offense, what you want to do. I think he'll be able to negate Lazort energy on the glass, those second chance points. They're not going to be able to rely on a lot of Lazort scoring in the paint, just because Tavares is such a defensive force and such great size. It also takes away some of those pull-up jumpers for Kevin Ponter, coming off that screen. Trust me, playing against Tavares, when we played against him in the EuroLeague, my time there, you can't see the basket unless you shoot deep threes. Like, you literally come off, he's in a drop coverage. If you try to shoot like a 15-foot pull-up, which Ponter's really good at, you can't see the basket. The only thing that's there is deep threes or the snake dribble, where he takes the screen, he goes across the screen, and then the big man's in a way, and you can kind of maybe get that 18 to 17 footer, but like, he really takes away what you want to do. So I think they're going to have a great home court. They're going to do what they have to do. Abramovich is going to have them ready. The best they can do is hope for one win, but I would not be surprised if it was 3-0, just from the pace that they play with, how they get going, the bodies they have after. The big fella's tired. You bring in a player like Vincent Poirier, a great big man, good energy, who's strong. And I just feel like with the schedule, it's going to be very hard for Lazort to play 35 minutes a night, 36 minutes a night when you're playing, every other day, and then you travel and you got that break there. But it's not easy to play that high demand in basketball, that caliber. And I think Real Madrid has better depth. They're going to limit the minutes, how Spanish teams do. And that's going to allow them to be stronger throughout the course of the series.
Well, yeah, I think the only advantage Partizan has is their fans, because it's really hard to win in their gym. But other than that, for example, Madrid is first by rebounds in EuroLeague, and Partizan, they're the last by rebounds. So they're gonna have big problems, like Errick said, with Tavares. And also, during those 2 games in the regular season, they couldn't stop Gabriel Deck. I don't see anybody who can guard him, because Papa Petru, he's a good player, but he's not a really good defender. And especially this year, he's kind of struggling, has some problems, and he doesn't show his best game. So I think just mentioning these 2 players from Madrid, they're gonna help Madrid win the series 3-1. Because I still think that the Partizan, with their emotions, they can take one game at home, and especially they have Coach Abramovich, who probably has biggest experience in EuroLeague playoffs.
Exactly. So probably that's the second advantage that Partizan has against Real Madrid. You mentioned the fan base, the great crowd that they have. As I was told by some Partizan people, that they have already requests to fulfill basically 2 Stark arenas for the playoff series against Madrid. I wouldn't be surprised if they could accommodate, from 30 to 40,000 people in one gym for the one game. But yeah, that's going to be wild, because I also believe that in Madrid they're gonna have a great support with traveling Partizan fans. But I think that they have more advantages. I think that, first of all, Partizan is a better coach team, and I just expect better coaching adjustments which might be crucial in the playoff series and having 2 games in 72 hours. I also think that Partizan is in a way better momentum, as they also won the last matchup against Madrid at home. What is interesting that both games went over 100 points, and both teams split victories, and actually the one who scored over 100, that team won that game. But I just think that Partizan is in a better momentum. They won some great games against great teams, including Monaco, Olympiacos, FS, Madrid. Yes, many of those wins came at home, but I just saw and witnessed a better chemistry between the players of Partizan. And I think that they fixed their defense compared to the first part of the season. And Real Madrid losing 4 of their last 7 games, they don't have that momentum. They have Chus Mateo as their head coach, who's a rookie coach at that level, and it will be a very tough matchup against Obradovic, who's a master of matchups. And yeah, they have some advantages you mentioned, especially with Gabriel Deck at the forward position, which was very important in both games. But I just go with this Partizan bandwagon for the series. I might be fooled by Partizan momentum like I was last year when Maccabi finished the regular season strong and they were actually swept by Real Madrid, although many thought that this might be the time they will be beaten by Maccabi in the playoffs. But in this case, I just think that Partizan improved their game a lot in the second part of the season. They got consistent. They have a lot of talent. They have a great unity between the players. They improved their defense, which is important. They always had the best offense in the EuroLeague. So I believe that they have all the tools to make a biggest upset in the playoffs, to win against the team which has the home court advantage.
Yeah, I agree that they're a better coached team, 100%. But let's not forget what kind of players Madrid has. You know, they have so many experienced players who won a lot of titles and who know when to play, and and especially in those type of games. And like I said, I think it's really hard for Partizan to win this series when you're not controlling rebounds. Usually, who's controlling the board, controlling the game.
Yeah, I mean, you might be completely right. Real Madrid is more talented. There's depth on their side, and there's this championship mentality. Although I think that, considering the depth, I think that Željko Obradovic managed to use, and of course, thanks to the improved shape and game of role players like Smailagic, like Trifunovic, like Yamadar, they added a little bit more depth in the second part of the season to make them deeper. And usually they play the starting minutes of the game just to give some more rest for the main players. It might be difficult in a tough series if the series goes to 4 or 5 games, but somehow I feel that this is the matchup where we could see this upset.
I don't feel like you can trust those young guys, not in a playoff atmosphere, not with so much on the line. Regular season is one thing, but once you get in the game, you've seen their up and down playoff season. Now it might be a tall task against a team of Real Madrid's caliber. And, they have good size too at the guard spots. Like Kuz said, there's a lot of mismatches in the post. I think they're going to utilize that. Gabriel Deck, Herzonia, a lot of things you can do. It's going to be interesting to see. I do think Partizan will fight. I think they'll try to muck up the game, make it real physical, try to take Madrid out of that pretty basketball, those sets flowing, the movement, and that's their best chance. But even then, I think it's just 3-1's their best hope.
Okay. I say Partizan in 5.
Really?
Yeah.
You like Partizan?
I want to be that brave guy that will everybody remember after this podcast if I will be right. Because if I will be wrong, I mean, nobody cares because that's what maybe they expected.
So this is a gamble.
I think it's opposite. I think you're just afraid to go to Belgrade if you say opposite,
I'm not going to Belgrade either way. I'm going to cover the Monaco and Maccabi series in the beginning, and then I will head back to Kaunas to greet Barcelona. But I see your point.
That's a good choice anyway. Monaco and Maccabi, that's the best series, I think. Yeah. That's going to be the best one.
And probably the most unpredictable one, right?
Yeah.
Unpredictable.
Yeah. Do we all have game 5 or you see getting shorter?
I think that Maccabi gonna win the series 3-2. First of all, because they have huge home court advantage and they're basically unbeatable at home. And Monaco doesn't have that. And both of the teams, has good guards, but still the way Maccabi is playing last, I would say, couple of months is really, really impressive. And which is a weird thing that both of the teams has a lot of guards. They playing isos and etc. But for example, Monaco is first by turnovers. Like they're making only 10.6. And Maccabi is fourth with 11.2. So that's really weird because usually they're just playing wild, and it looks like they should make more turnovers, but that's pretty impressive. But like I said, I think that Maccabi gonna win the series 3-2. Even Monaco has big advantage in coaching staff. I think Obradovic is a really experienced player and he knows how to play those games. But I'm still going with Maccabi.
Yeah, for me, I also have Maccabi in 5. Harp on the same things. 15-2 at home. Only losses to Red Star by 3, and Barcelona another close one. Just that crowd, the energy. But I do think the guard play is elite. You got Mike James versus Lorenzo Brown, 2 different styles, but 2 game changers. And then you throw in Wade Baldwin in that mix against Elia Kobo and Jordan Lloyd. I think it's going to be something special to watch. I give the size advantage, obviously, to the Maccabi guards. I think you might see them start to use Wade and Lorenzo in the post, to kind of wear out Mike James and Lakobo, take away some of that energy for them to attack offensively and to utilize that size and maybe put them in foul trouble. As we saw last year when Mike James got in foul trouble against Olympiacos in Game 5, it really changed, everything that they wanted to do. And, took away some of his aggressivity and, he wasn't able to, to close out the victory, but, he was, very strong in getting them there. And I think, they have good bigs as well. But Poitras coming back, that's a huge injection for them. Somebody who can really good in the pick and cut, who also can switch, who's another rebounding force. And, he can provide some problems for Mindaugas and pick and roll coverage. You'll probably see a lot of Dante Hall when you see Poitras out there. But even then, they can still counter with Josh Nebo. I just feel like it's going to be a lot of athleticism in that court, a lot of up-tempo. And I think at this point, Maccabi has less that they're trying to answer. I think Monaco was, with the stuff that happened with Mike, him, taking the lead of absence for the team and then coming back and then trying to find a way to implement himself, while still playing for the team, but being who he is. I think, when you're gone for a while, it could be difficult for you, especially when your team has success without you. And I think he's finding, who he is. And the team needs him to be successful. They need him to be that dog. And he's a willing passer. He'll do what's necessary. It just, sometimes he's so good and so dominant, it can take away from other people's aggressivities. And those guys have to stay aggressive. The Jordan Lloyds, the Kobos, they have to be in attack mode because you don't want Mike to not take his foot off the gas. But you can't allow to be caught watching his greatness. Get involved, do what you do too. And I think it gives him a better shot. But that home court, 15-2, it jumps out to me.
Yeah, like Errick said, I think a lot of things going to depend on Mike, what kind of shape he's going to be, because I think he was in a great shape during all the season, but after these things which happened inside the team, I don't think that right now he already caught his rhythm. And at the same time, Monaco, they don't have advantage in the paint. Their big guys are good, with all my love to Donatas Motiejūnas, but I don't think that they have a huge advantage. And right now, Monaco is last by 3-point shot percentage in the league. So without making 3-point shots, it's really, really hard to win series like that against Maccabi.
I think 3-point shooting will be crucial. As you mentioned, they're last with 32% 3-point shooting. They also last in the 3-point shot attempts. And that's, of course, related to the lack of shooters that they're going to have. During the season, they couldn't find the stretch four, which could help to spread the floor for all of these guards, for all these great players that they have. And they're struggling.
I was available, but
so that guy who they didn't sign now is killing them in the playoff predictions. That's how it goes. No, but yeah, to be serious, it's it becomes very tough. I mean, I think that the decisive moment of the series for Monaco, and just for the entire series, will be, as I mentioned, Mike James, and then 3-point shooting by Monaco, because Maccabi, they usually allow their opponents to shoot threes, but the problem is that if Monaco keeps missing them, Maccabi is one of the best teams in transition, and they're gonna just destroy them if they don't convert those open looks or good looks into 3 points. And it a lot of depends on the luck, on the how accurate John Brown, Blossom Game, Diallo, or even Matiunas will be. But if not, the paint will be packed for them, and it won't be easy to score, because Maccabi also they can throw some physical, tall lineups that will make their life really hard. And yeah, the other decisive moment is Mike James. What kind of Mike James we will see in the playoffs? Because I mean, I would say that his season before the suspension was great in the first half, and the second half of the regular season, maybe it was more of a roller coaster. But when he returned after the suspension, he had this weird stretch of 4 games. And his return against Zalgiris, he scored 6 points. He had 4 assists and four turnovers, which is understandable because he was not playing for 3 weeks already. So it's just hard to return after missing such a long time. Then against Bayern Munich, he had season high. He tied his season high 28 points on tremendous 6 of 9 3-point shooting. But then the following 2 games against Partizan, he made 5 turnovers next to 6 assists and 10 points. And against Efes, he missed all of his 6 shots from the field and finished the game with 7 points. I mean, these numbers are far from what Mike James can do and supposed to do on Monaco team. At the same time, the good news is that playoff Mike James is just elite. For instance, last year against Olympiacos, he was averaging almost 18 points, 4.5 rebounds, 5.8 assists, and over 20 efficiency rating. In every playoff series that he had, he never scored less than 14.7 points per game. And usually he attacks the rim on great and efficient numbers. So, I mean, we can expect Mike James to be locked in the playoff series, and that's what Monaco really needs from him if they want to overcome Maccabi, which is so similar to Monaco, but the difference is that I think that they're in a way better momentum in the second part of the regular season. Wade Baldwin is playing amazing half. Lorenzo Brown returned. He got back in his shape. Poitras is returning. They all click so great together as a team. And they're on this, mood to win it all the way to the Final Four in Kaunas. So unless Mike James puts his beast numbers and unless Monaco starts making threes, I also see Maccabi winning it in 5 games, I would say. And this is the take which probably will make Donatas Mutinas not to shake my hand in Monaco when I will visit him next week. So I kind of feel bad about it, but that's the reality right now.
Yeah, I think you guys are all right. That 3-point shooting will play a major factor. I never really worry about Mike. Like you said, like he always shows up in the big games. He's going to do what he does. It's just that it makes it extremely hard without that spacer. And, I love John Brown, love his energy. To me, the best defensive player in the pick and roll or, post with his activeness, the way he steals the ball in the EuroLeague. But, he's not a shooter. And he's probably going to have to be, when they shrink the court and they help. Diallo's not a shooter. You're talking about these guys are in the lower 30 percentages. Blossom Game is not shooting the ball well this year, 24% from 3. And these are guys who you're going to need. They're not going to leave Jordan Lloyd open. They're not going to leave Kobo open. You're going to rotate off of the other guy. And it has to be another person out there on the court. And it would help sometimes if they could go pick and pop with the 5 or with the 4. But I think Mike's going to produce. He's going to do what he does. But, when you have a player of his caliber, you need that shooting around it to kind of open everything up, because he's the type of guy that could hurt you with 10 to 11 assists or with 30 points. I just worry if they will exhaust him just because he'll have to carry so much of the offensive load. And then he's going to have to guard Lorenzo and Wade. And Wade's in constant attack mode. So it's exhausting to have to, produce 20 and 6 assists and then go guard a guy who, also is capable of scoring 20 and 5 or 6 assists. So it's going to be interesting to see. But I still feel comfortable with the Maccabi pick. And, I think they have more players. If you're Monaco, you got to try to attack those threes and those fours. Maybe stay away from the five. And, 2-1, Lorenzo's a good defender. Wade's a good defender. And the fives are good. You got to go at the threes or fours. So I'd like to see a lot of Mike James with the 3-man screen action, allow him to kind of work out a little bit. Definitely attack the 4-man. I think there's some opportunities there.
So which team has a better backcourt? Is Maccabi's duo the greatest in the EuroLeague this year?
I mean, statistically, the numbers say it. The points they produce, the assists, their impact on the game. And then they have, better shooting around them. I think you have to kind of say them, but I do still feel Mike James is the biggest talent on the court. But I think right now, Lorenzo Brown and Wade Baldwin are in the best form.
Well, taking only guards, probably I would go with Monaco lineup, actually. I played with Mike James, with Jordan Lloyd. Both of them are amazing players. And especially, like Donatas mentioned, they're great in important moments. In playoffs, I think it's time for them to show up. But looking at all the roster, I think Maccabi is still better.
Okay, so we all have Maccabi in 5, right?
Yes.
Okay, and the last matchup, Zalgiris Barcelona. I see Mindaugas is smiling. Can you just give us some hope that it won't be a sweep?
I would like to. Well, I think it's the less talented team in top 8, but with the biggest heart, playing against biggest talent team probably in EuroLeague. It's just really hard for Zalgiris to find correct matchups. Like for example, Arnolds Butkevičius this season, he's doing an unbelievable job. Stopping best players of the teams. For example, he stopped Mike James and then all the others. You can mention, all of them, but I don't see who can stop Mirotic. And we saw in the last game against Zalgiris how he was dominating. None of us tried to play against him, but Mirotic is way higher. Butkevičius also, so it's just really hard for Zalgiris to find the correct matchups, and that's the main problem for them. And like I said, Zalgiris has huge heart, and I think they're fighting amazing. That's why they're in top 8. But usually Jasikevičius' team is also the same. He's also making all his players who are even bigger stars, dive on the floor, fight for every ball, and just fight 100%. So I think it's gonna be really hard for Zalgiris to make one more surprise, because honestly for me it was huge surprise that they made it to top 8. Before the season I wasn't even thinking about that. I thought that probably gonna be like 12th, 13th together with Panathinaikos. But what Coach Moskvitas did with his team this year is just something amazing, especially when you lose your most important player. I remember me and Errick, before the practice, we were stretching together. So we were talking that probably it's going to be tough times for Zalgiris when they lost Evans, but what they did is just speechless.
Errick, do you have any sophisticated explanation how the hell Zalgiris managed to make the playoffs? Because honestly speaking, I don't have it.
Yeah, I mean, it's amazing, what that coach did. He took that talent, no slight to the players. Everybody knows based on, experience, careers, name, whatever, resumes, that they don't have, the level of their counterpart, Barcelona, or some of these other teams in the playoffs. It's young guys who are proving themselves, or guys who were coming in and had smaller roles, and, who took that and, are cementing themselves, in the EuroLeague. And, just to see them overcome some of those teams, win those clutch games, go to certain places, but with a lot of pressure, that shows their character, that shows their toughness. I think it shows the Lithuanian fighting spirit. But that also, to me, also means that the season is over. The accomplishment was getting to the playoffs. At Zalgiris, there's not an urge to go further. It's like, great job, guys. Everyone around the city, I'm sure, is showering them with love. Like, you did it. Whereas at Barcelona, anything less than a title is a failure. It's a different sense of urgency. We're supposed to be here. We belong here. You know, how you show up, how you do things is a lot different when you expect it than compared to when, you know, you're gambling with house money. It's like going to a casino and, you know, someone just gave you chips to play and Zalgiris hit. You know, they did an excellent job, but there was no pressure. They weren't playing with their own money. You know, now you're in the playoffs. It's a different type of atmosphere. I think there's just too many answers. Barcelona's strong. They're good in the half court. You know, they can run with you. They're physical. They have shooting. They have experienced guards. Their guards are tall. They have good size. I mean, you know, they have the coaching. He's going to utilize mismatches. He's going to figure out who he wants to attack on the court, and he'll go at them all night until substitution is made or until, you know, an adjustment is created. But there's only so much adjusting you can do when you have limited resources. And Zalgiris, they maximize this season. So just chalk it up as an excellent season. Pat the coach on the back. You know, I think if Keenan Evans was here, it could be maybe one win, you know, but, you know, Keenan Evans isn't walking through that door. I don't think they have anyone who's capable to take over this series or this game that could produce one win. Because, you know, you have to be a special player to be able to go against a team that you have no business beating and to be able to take over that game and dominate to lift up other players. And I don't think they have anybody on the roster right now who can manufacture easy points for guys. When you have one guy who can kind of get open threes, get easy pick and rolls, who demands a double team, it can kind of give you hope for an upset for a game, not for a series. But when you don't have that, everybody can stay home. You don't really have to worry about helps. There's no advantages being gained. It found it extremely difficult for them to create mismatches against Barcelona. So 3-0, it will be quick. Hopefully it will be a quick death. You know, don't make them suffer, but it will be fast. I'm sorry to my Lithuanian friends.
Wow.
I hope it's a shot to the head and not a bleed out.
Yeah, but Errick, at the same time, Zalgiris still has nothing to lose. And pressure from Barcelona is even bigger. You know, just the only thing that is serious best of 5. That's the biggest, you know, difference maker. If it was only one game,
yeah, one game will be different.
Yeah.
One game, anything.
Yeah, right now, yeah, it's best of 5, so that's why it's really hard.
Don't forget that Barca has this history of making things complicated in the playoffs. Zenit series, best of 5. Bayern series, where nobody saw that coming, best of 5. Zalgiris has nothing to lose, but they're also they stay hungry. They won against Barca in the regular season. I know it was very early, but it made them believe that they can beat this team. And although they lost against Barca by 20 in January, I think, it was also the game where everything was going according to Barca's plan, and Zalgiris played one of their worst games. And I mean, I completely agree with all of your arguments that you said, but basically the same you could say about the second part of the regular season. They didn't have this go-to guy to finish, to score from every corner of the court, to clinch some victories offensively. But somehow you see Edgaras Ulanovas making some step-back shots and crucial plays. Somehow Arnas Butkevičius make corner threes with the buzzer beater and, you know, helping to push Žalgiris to win those games. So a lot of crazy things has happened that led them to the playoffs. So, and, you know, you never know how long it will last. Logically, sophisticated speaking, you know, from science perspective, there should be any chance for Žalgiris. But let's see how this playoff pressure affects Barca. We have this history. We have Žalgiris playing at home the third game. And it should be an emotional game for both Coach Šarūnas Jasikevičius, for Rokas Jokubaitis as well. And if Barca won't treat them seriously, they might get in trouble as they did with Bayern Munich. It all goes to the game 1 in Barcelona. And I mean, and the matchup, by the way, I have a matchup to look for. It's Roland Schmitz against Nikola Mirotic. I want to see this matchup a lot because Schmitz was the backup of Mirotic for the last 3 years. And basically, the lack of bigger role and the desire to show that he can play a bigger role was one of the reasons why he left Barca, why he actually refused some good offers in Spain, just to play in Žalgiris, just to have this opportunity, you know, to play a meaningful, significant minutes and to be one of the key players on that team. And Schmitz is really great defensive player. He knows Mirotic what he loves, what he dislikes very well from day-to-day practice routines. He knows how to put him out of his mind, out of his control. And if only referees will let him play physical, then it might be a very interesting series between those two.
Well, let me harp on that. Let me harp on that. Okay.
But,
so I think Smith is a good player, but Mirotic is going to show you. If they play one-on-one, he's going to show you why he was his backup. He's going to abuse him. He's too light. He's too skilled in the post. He has the jump shot. He can hurt you from the perimeter. He can pick and pop him. He can hit him in the mid post. He can back him down with strength. He's a footer. It's just too many options. And it's really hard to guard the four in general, just because you have good guard play coming off the screens. You have to hedge. Especially, Libreville, he could shoot. So if you don't hedge and stop him, you're going to give up walk-in threes for those guys. Euclides has the nice mid-range pull-up. So he has the hedge. And when you hedge, you're vulnerable for the pick and pop. It's hard to guard. But also, the difference in those series against Munich and Zenit, they had strong guard play. Kevin Pangos was the guy who could control the series. If you play through him, give him the ball 30, 35 minutes a game, he's good enough in the pick and roll to make things easy for his teammates. Wade Baldwin was in Munich. There is no Keenan Evans. If there was Keenan Evans, my talk would be different, because that's somebody who can create and dominate and do something. There's no one on Zalgiris roster who can change the game for a course of a series. Maybe one game a guy can show up, but to consistently demand double teams, hard hedges, traps, to get people easy, wide open shots. There's a reason they only score 76 points a game, and it's because offense is very difficult to manufacture.
Wade Baldwin wasn't on that team. Just let me to add, Wade Baldwin wasn't on that team. It was the last year's team with Nick Weiler-Bob, Corey
and DJ
Walden,
Silly?
but I think he was injured.
Was DJ Silly on that team?
No. Last year it was Nick Weiler-Bob.
That was a couple years ago there with DJ Silly and Wade Baldwin. That was a good team too.
Yeah, but last year they were not as talented as the previous Bayern Munich team. Basically, they played with Nick Weiler-Bob. I think it was Obst, Yaramas on their backcourt. Walden was injured. Darun Hillard was injured. And they were also very limited. And I think that, offensively, Žalgiris will struggle a lot, but defensively, I think that Žalgiris won a lot of games or put themselves in a position to win games playing great defense. So I think that's also should be one of the only hopes that they have to make it ugly game.
You think Smith is going to stop Mirotic? You believe that?
I'm not saying that. I'm just eager to watch this matchup because there's so much behind it for Roland Schmitz.
I think he's good, but that's a tall order.
I understand that Smith knows Mirotic, but at the same time, Mirotic knows him. And what is more important, Jasikevičius knows all of them. And Jasikevičius is just genius in basketball. So I think that he's going to find a way how to attack. And more than that, Smith right now, he's playing more as a five. True. Because right now they're playing small ball. So, and yeah, Žalgiris they're really limited in offense. In last games against Barcelona, they scored 74-73. So if they can keep Barca below 75 points, then they have some chances. If Barca gonna score 80 or more, I don't think they have chances, unfortunately.
And last year, was Corey Higgins hurt in that first series? Was he injured?
He got back either at the end of the series or for the Final Four. I don't remember particularly.
Yeah, I'm trying to remember, but I remember he was out for some time, and I think when he was hurt, they were a different team. They were not the same. I understand the Zalgiris pride. I know it's probably hard to go against the team. I know it is, but you're not against them. You're just using your brain and just being honest.
I was using my brain the entire season. Somehow they still made the playoffs. So they go beyond logical thinking, really.
They have done excellent. Coach of the year for sure. He's done an excellent job.
All the odds were against them, but they made it.
So you have Coach of the Year, Kazis Maksvitis, right?
Yes, for sure. Hands down.
Best Defender of the Year. You just praised Eddie Tavares a lot. Do you pick him over Thomas Walkup?
I feel like And you know, it's crazy because I feel like last year John Brown would have got it, but then like all the stuff happened in Russia. I feel like almost we owe him one. But I mean, Thomas Walkup's an elite defender. He might not get all like the statistics that the bigs get, you know, with the blocks. And, you know, he's on ball a lot, guarding the best players. So there's not going to be a lot of steals, but he does make it extremely difficult, you know, for guys. And, you know, I think you can't go wrong if you go any order of Walkup, Tavares, or John Brown. Like those are the three best defenders that I've seen, you know, in the EuroLeague and that are at a high level.
I think John Brown was playing better defense in Kazan. I don't know, it was system or something. I think in Monaco he's not as efficient as he was there. Sometimes I see him over helping, you know, and sometimes doing some unnecessary things. And maybe I shouldn't talk about defense at all, but I see what I see. So, and also
Maybe
at the same time, I think that Tavares, he's helping a lot. He's changing a lot of shots, even if he's not blocking them. But knowing that Olympiacos are first right now in regular season in EuroLeague, I would give this award to Thomas Walkup for sure. He's doing an amazing job, which is sometimes not even in the stats.
Will the voters be aware that maybe he won't have all the statistics that, you know, show defense on paper, but, you know, like when he's helping, when he's forcing an extra pass, when he's guarding the best player, you know, because I mean, he does get 1.9 steals a game, but, you know, sometimes I feel like when you're a really good on ball defender, sometimes that gets lost in people's mind because everyone falls in love with the block shot for the big man.
Okay, so I think we didn't point this out, but so we have Zalgiris. We have Barcelona in 3 and 4. How many games you give to the series?
3. Maybe 2.5, huh? Might be over half.
Wow.
Might be over half.
Stop it, please. I would say 4. I want Zalgiris to win one more game, just to people to enjoy more the second game in Kaunas, you know, and for Zalgiris to earn more money and sign better players next year, you know, so even better, you know. So I'm going with Barca 3-1.
Barca in 5.
Oh.
Mark my word.
I'm telling you, Errick, his situation is different. He's in Lithuania. He might go to Belgrade, you know, so his situation is different.
If he don't say that, he can never go to coffee again. No more walks around the city, nothing.
Yeah.
I have to go with those big fan bases. Partizan, Zalgiris. If Red Star was in the playoffs, I would go all in with Red Star. I mean, I have to be smart about my safety in those cities that I visit throughout the season.
Yeah,
best of luck for you guys. Best of luck for you guys. The next time you visit Kaunas, especially you, Errick, Kaunas, Belgrade, just wishing you best.
I love Lithuanian people, but you know, I don't go to Lithuania much unless I have a game. I told Kuz it's always dark and gloomy every time in season, and it's cold. And then I think Guinness ruined it for us. He picked a remote city for a preseason when I was at Lokomotiv Kuban, and we stayed there for like 2 weeks, and it felt like an eternity. It was a small city with nothing there.
I think Panevėžys.
Oh, it was horrible.
I think you were in Panevėžys, the hotel, a little bit weird hotel, right?
Yes. I wouldn't wish this place on anybody.
Yeah.
But I do like Kaunas is decent. I like Vilnius. This is a good city. Outside of that, you won't see me in Lithuania. But I do like the people.
Actually, it's hard for me to discuss these topics because usually the players they're coming to Lithuania during the season when it's dark, cold, rainy, you know.
Yeah.
And I'm in Lithuania during the summer when it's nice, light, everybody's in good mood, you know, sunshine. So for me, it's really hard to discuss. You should come to Lithuania during the summer. Maybe you change your
Maybe
opinion.
during the Final Four.
I need a summer experience. I think if I go in the summer, it would be a whole different thing. I just hate the rain and cold. And I'm from Ohio, so I'm just tired of it.
Kuz, you should take Errick in July, you know, to one of your, you know, saunas or to some lake to experience that Lithuanian greatness that we have. Because what's great about Lithuania that in July it's like below 30. It's not too hot. I mean, it's quite mild, warm that you have over there. So it's way better when in states or whatever where it is like over 40 degrees. So.
Yeah, and Errick loves saunas, by the way. We're going to sauna. Yeah, he loves saunas.
Okay. And I bet that when you've been in Lithuania in August, I believe it was like plus 10 or plus 15 or something, right?
Yes.
That's crazy. That's crazy. Yeah, Lithuania is the great, but the problem is that we have this great weather only for 1 month throughout the whole year, basically. So, okay, maybe 2, but other than that, that's why we're hard workers, you know.
That's why all the games are full. There's nothing to do, so everybody goes to the basketball games.
And it makes us warm, you know, that kind of atmosphere with 15,000 people close to it makes us warm.
Yeah, sometimes we come to the gyms when it's cold here in Turkey, you know, and some of the assistant coaches say, you should be, you know, used to it because, you know, you're from Lithuania. I said, yeah, in Lithuania it's cold outside, but not inside the court, you know, inside is hot.
Yeah, they have beautiful gyms. They do a good job with the gyms.
Okay, guys, it was pleasure to share basketball insights with you. It was pleasure to talk to you. I hope your picks will be dead wrong and I will come out on top with my crazy ones. But I wish you a great playoff experience. I don't know if you follow EuroLeague as close as you will be watching every game. I'm not sure if the schedule will allow, but I believe it's going to be a big topic in the locker room, right?
Oh, for sure. For sure. Me and Kuz will be going back and forth talking about it, trying to see who was right. Some of the other guys as well, but
yeah, I love, you know, betting. So I think I'm gonna make some bracket and we all gonna bet, you know, in the locker room.
That's a good deal right there. Good deal.
If you like betting, if you like safe betting, there's BasketNews playoffs brackets where you can share your predictions and win some prizes, including.
Please, no commercials here. No commercials here, okay? Please.
This is my podcast. I can do whatever I want. So there is this great bracket on BasketNews, and just enjoy the best playoff experience. Also, follow us on basketnews.com website, YouTube channel, and our social media channels. And of course, thank you guys for sharing this 1 hour with me and with our listeners. I hope to listen to you soon during some stretch of the playoffs or the Final Four.
All right. Thank you for the invitation.
Thanks for having us.